Hi, Ipsita. Good morning. Let's wait for 5 more minutes. Okay, then we will start. And before starting, let me confirm with you. Is my voice audible? Okay, clear, right? Okay, thank you. Yes. And last class, we have been discussing about CDN, Content Delivery Networks. In AWS, we call them as CloudFront, right? CloudFront Distribution Networks. And yes, Route 53. We should discuss about Route 53. They have disabled this. Let us also delete. And now we will talk about Route 53. Route 53 you can find same under network and content delivery section. Route 53 is a DNS service. So what is this DNS service? All registered domains are maintained under DNS servers. What is the job of this DNS server is mapping between the domain names and IP addresses. We know, right? We have talked about EC2 instances. People use these EC2 instances as servers. They configure them as servers, but we cannot give IP addresses of these EC2 instances directly. Or if we have a load balances on top of our servers, nor we cannot give that load balancer IP address. And same thing with content delivery networks. The services which we have talked so far in real life, they are backend. Uh, Front end for the customer or client, what you will expose is the DNS name, and DNS servers will maintain this DNS name and maps to the IP addresses. DNS servers are simply like a phone book. Long back, we used to have a phone book. There will be numbers, names opposite to numbers, right? So if you want to search any number according to the name, you can search the number, particular number. Same thing like DNS servers are like those phone books. All the mappings, say 360 digit mg is a DNS name. Suppose 360 digit mg is maintaining some 4 servers. So all the IP addresses or related services like elastic load balancing and content delivery networks will be there in DNS servers. So let's see what this Route 53 will do. It says read only. We'll open new one. Okay. We talked about EC2 servers. And we know that users reach to EC2 servers. And also we know S3 buckets. They are also capable of static web hosting. Bucket. So S3 bucket. Not only static web hosting, you can get images, videos, etc. that are there in the S3 bucket. And also S3 bucket, we know that it can host a static website. So when we have such static web hosting, or when we have images or videos that has to be delivered to user can request to S3 bucket also. Send a request. And we talked about these services like EC2 load balancing. In these scenarios, if a user wants to reach EC2 servers, what he has, how he can reach, he has to use IP address, public IP address of EC2 servers, or the DNS name which AWS assigns. So using those things, users can send requests to EC2 servers, and same thing with the S3. Every S3 bucket will have a bucket URL, and every object will have a object URL. So using that, if public access is enabled with the bucket, users can send requests to S3 bucket also. We already know this, but as a web application, we don't want our users to use IP addresses or S3 bucket names. We want them to use a proper DNS name. How many servers it might be at the backend? It could be S3 bucket or any other service. Users has to reach all of these things, all of my web services related to my web applications using a domain name. DNS we call domain names service. So we also talked about elastic load balancer. So if I use elastic load balancer, then users has to use ELB DNS name, because we don't know the DNS, public IP of ELB. Why? Because it's AWS managed service. It will give the public DNS name of ELB, which we can use on internet. Same thing with S3. And here you can also use content delivery networks. So let's call this as content delivery networks or CloudFront. Suppose we have opted for CloudFront. Since it's distributed, so let us say this is CloudFront. Then user will reach to CloudFront, and based on your mappings, CloudFront will reach to send the request to EC2 servers or S3 bucket. And we know how CloudFront works. The first request it will send to the origin, and then onwards it will cache in its memory. Whenever user sends a request to CloudFront, so when you opt for CloudFront, the user request will hit CloudFront. They'll not directly go to EC2 servers or S3 buckets. So now this is also there, and when you opt for CloudFront, AWS will give us a CloudFront DNS name, but we don't want to expose that also to our users. We want a registered domain name for our business, and we want our clients or customers to use that DNS name. And now comes Route 53. Yes, I have registered DNS name. Just give me a minute, please. Sorry, yes. Now, yes, say we have registered a company name. See, I want to offer my tutorials, say for example. So I have registered a domain name called as Srija Cloud Tutorials.com, .net or .org, anything. Now users, I want them to use this thing. www.srijacloudtutorials.com is our web page name or web application name. This is our domain name. And when users use this, the request has to hit CloudFront, and CloudFront sends to EC2 servers as well as S3 bucket. If I don't want to opt for CloudFront, I am still in initial stages. I know that my clients will be only uh, within the Indian region, something like that. I don't have global users. Then need not opt for CloudFront. Then I'll directly attach EC2 servers with this DNS name, and whenever a request comes with this DNS name, it will be routed to EC2 servers. If I have content in S3 bucket, right, then I can add this S3 bucket to this DNS name. Then whenever user requests with this, it will reach S3 bucket. Or what people will do, they'll say CloudFront will be there, ELB will be attached to CloudFront, and then you will give an access of S3 to EC2 via role roles, and EC2 can fetch from the S3 and send it to the CloudFront, and CloudFront will uh, route that response to the client. But client's requests, whatever might be the application, whether it's coming to from EC2 servers or from ELB or from CloudFront or from S3, whatever it is, we want our clients to send a request using this DNS name. And now there should be some service which connects these services, actual web application or actual web scripts, and web content like images, video clips, and HTML pages. All these things lies on EC2 servers and S3 bucket. But we are not using either public IP addresses or DNS names of these services. We need some service which maps all these services, web services, to the DNS name, and that service is Route 53. Now let us call this Route 53 and put it here. Now let's call this as Route 53. And now your Route 53 is there. Route 53, what it is? is AWS managed DNS server or DNS service. And for every registered domain name, there will be a DNS server attached. And these DNS servers are available worldwide. Let us check in DNS checker. We will understand how this DNS works. DNS checker. We can search any, let's say Myntra.com. Myntra.com is a domain name. Myntra has their own servers, and there should be DNS server which maps this domain name with those servers' IP addresses. We don't know servers, it could be servers or it could be CDN service. We don't know actually. Let us call them servers. Servers are there, they have public IP addresses, but we don't call these servers by their IP addresses. We always search Myntra.com. And these DNS servers have mappings from this domain name with the server public IP address, or if they are using ELB with the ELB, if they are using CloudFront with CloudFront, right? So now let us search. So these are the DNS servers. So in the United States, they are using this DNS server, and this is the DNS server, and this is the DNS server, which it's like a phone book we already discussed. Every domain name will get mapped to the respective IP address or internal DNS name if they are hosted on the cloud like AWS. So if you take 360 digit MG, so there are two DNS servers here. So these two DNS servers has registration. When we get a domain name registered, what happens? It DN it we will have a record in this DNS servers. What record? Record that tells how to map to the servers of public IP addresses. So let us understand how this DNS service works. And now, and then we will go and create one Route 53. And route on AWS South, Route 53 is one such DNS service. So let us go to the presentation. Okay, just give me a minute, guys. I'll get back to you. Okay, sorry for that. See here, this picture shows how DNS works. And when, say, example.com is the domain name. When someone searches for example.com, any client on the internet, if try to reach this example.com, the request will first hit DNS resolver or the DNS server which we are talking about. What this DNS resolver will do is it will look into its cache memory whether it could find any IP address or any other service name mapped to it. Service names like CloudFronts or ELBs, or directly the public IP addresses of the servers are mapped to this particular example.com domain name or not. DNS resolver will check that. If it is able to find, then it will return it. Otherwise, if it is not able to find, the first time you are accessing some URL, accessing some DNS name. So if it is already used DNS names, then it will be in your browser cache memory as well as DNS service cache memory, both. Suppose you are using some new website and for first time your browser don't know any details about that, and as well as your DNS resolver doesn't have any information in its cache memory. Now what the DNS resolver will do is it will send that request to root server, and this root server will check into the domain name, and usually what happens at step 2, the resolver then queries to DNS root name server, and this root name server will send a response, and this response is not the mapping yet. We still don't know what is the mapped public IP address or what is the related service names. Root server will send a response. That response is TLD server, to which TLD server DNS resolver has to contact. So what are these TLD servers? Top level domains. We have domains, level domains, as .com is one level domain, .net, .org, .in. So like this, right? These are called as top level domains, and there will be different TLDs for different top level domains. Say this TLD for .com, there will be a different TLD. For .net, there will be different TLD. And now this TLD maintains related information of that mappings. So now DNS resolver, say I am saying Srija Cloud tutorials.com. So then what root server will tell is go and uh, uh, contact some so and so .com TLD server. So if I say Srija Cloud tutorials.net, then the root server will send response to that. Response will be the TLD server details. So it will be .net. So it depends upon the that level domain we are using. Now this TLD, it sends response of the actual server. So this is the EC2 server, or this is the static S3 website, or this is the ECS container. We have not yet talked about it. ECS are also like EC2. They can host a web application, Elastic Container Service. So they can be your Elastic containers, or they can be EC2 servers, or they can be S3 buckets, or other services on top of EC2 servers like CloudFront, Elastic Load Balancers. And this is the place. So this example.com has to be mapped here. If DNS resolver has this in its cache, then it will not go to all these steps. It will directly uh, map it to this origin. So if it is new to DNS resolver, then it will go through all these steps. So this is how DNS works. And now everything to do all these things, DNS should have records. So as I said, records are nothing but mappings of DNS names to IP addresses. And there are different types of records. So let us also talk about different types of records which DNS server maintains. First one is A record, and mostly used record. Why? This is a record which does the job which we are talking about. What this A record will do, it will map the domain name with the actual IP address. A record. So if we are using EC2 servers, since we are talking about AWS, EC2 servers or any other servers, then fine. You can directly use A record. You can create a record mapping the domain name with the IP address. Like how will you, if you want to maintain a phone book of your own, what will you do? All the contacts, you'll write a name opposite to it number. Same thing here also. A record, your DNS name mapped with IP addresses of servers. A record. And we have CNAME record. If you want to use subdomains, not IP addresses, then you have to create a CNAME record. So subdomains where it is helpful, like CDN. If you are using Amazon's CDN, it's fine, CloudFront. Suppose you are bringing third-part CDNs like Akamai, so you are using that. They will give you an URL. They will not give you an IP address. They will give you their DNS name. And now people who are visiting who want to visit your web application with the DNS name has to reach the CDN first. But CDN doesn't have an IP address. You only have a domain name. If you want to use such domain names, then you have to create a CNAME record. So record means mapping DNS name with subdomain. Now your DNS name will be there, opposite it will be mapped to CDN name or elastic load balancer name. And then mail servers. MX records are for mail servers, and these NS records are name servers. And SOA means what it says, start of authority record, and TXT. So this can be included for any additional information. So manually you have to create a record, CNAME record, MX record. NS record, SOA record, when you register your domain name, automatically they will be there. So naming, registering your name, you have registered a domain name. It will not be assigned to anyone else. How? So it will be a part of your name server. You have registered, you own that. And same thing, start of authority record. When you register your domain name, a start of authority record will also be created for us. So SOA record and NS record by default will be assigned by your domain registrar. It can be AWS or third party domain registrar. They will automatically, this NS and SOE will be assigned. And now what we have to create is a record, CNAME record, MX record. Do we have any servers? Then we, with public IP addresses, we create a record. If we have services like CloudFront, Elastic Load Balancers, and any other subdomains, we don't have IP addresses, we have domain names. Then to map, we will use CNAME. This is for mail servers. And NS SOA we will get when we register our domain name. Right? Clear about DNS, guys? Any doubts? So now let's go and create one. uh, Route 53. Go to AWS, Route 53. You can see this is a console page here. Create hosted zone, create policy, create health check, and register domain. So if you look into the headings, DNS management, traffic management, availability monitoring, and domain registration. You can register domain here. We already discussed, but it is bit expensive here comparatively with the third party vendors. If you go for GoDaddy and Hostinger or Bluehost, a lot of other vendors are there. So they are providing domain names for cheaper prices compared with AWS. However, we have an option of creating a public domain name here. But we are not creating any public domain name. We will go with private domain name. We want to know about Route 53. If you have a public registered domain name, you can use that, or else you can use a private domain name. When I say private, it works in AWS network. AWS global infrastructure. While talking about that, we talked about this, right? AWS has private links. AWS has network. Without internet, yes. So all these white lines, what it is? So this is AWS network. All the regions are interconnected. All the regions are a part of this AWS network. And if we create a private hosted zone, private DNS name, then our private DNS name will be valid within AWS network, not outside. If you want a uh, valid DNS name which works outside, then we have to create a public DNS name. We have to register a public DNS name. So let's go here, and the DNS service, please go and check free tier limits before you are doing lab. And the good practice is always delete the service. And next day when you are starting the lab, again create the service. So to avoid those extra bills. If you are using for short period of time, AWS will also ignore it. So let's go. And create a private hosted zone. So we are not going with the domain registration step now. We know what it is. So it is used to register domains. And now, after registering your domain name, the second step what we have to do, we have to map our domain name with the services. Services like EC2, S3, CloudFront, ELB, right? So now we do that under DNS management. Now here, if we have a public domain name, registered domain name, we can use. And hosted zone will be public hosted zone, the entire internet. Traffic is routed on the internet. So if you don't have an registered domain name, public one, you can switch to private hosted zone. A private hosted zone determines how traffic is routed within the Amazon VPCs. You can add VPC here. We know each region has a default VPC. You can add these VPCs, and within that VPC, this Route 53 will work. So let us create a domain name. Let's say studio .net. .net, .com, you can use anything, but it will be valid in only AWS network, not on the public internet, since we are using private hosted zone. Description is optional, we can skip it. VPCs to associate with hosted zone. Let us add Mumbai's VPC. VPC ID, and also add one more Tokyo VPC ID. Let us add one more VPC. So Sydney VPC. So I have added 3 VPCs. So within 3 VPCs, this Route 53 works. I can launch servers as well as clients should be in these VPCs. Create hosted zone. See, I have NS record, SOA record. By default, they will be created. And these are my DNS servers now, DNS resolvers. So value or route traffic to these are the VPCs, VPCs and the related what we said TLD servers, we can say TLD servers, and same thing SOA record we are registering it. Start of authority, we are registering it, right? So now we have it. Let us also create a server and map that server to this domain name. This is my domain name now. And let us go to EC2. One instance is running. And it has public IP address. So let us connect to this instance. Connect. Okay, sorry. Sorry now, guys. Am I audible? Yes, and we know, right? We will install that HTTPD service now. And then cd var, and we know www will be there anyway, html index.html. This is our server. service. HTTP status. And now we know that this service is running, and now I can use this IP address and we are getting this. Now this is our server, and to reach this server we are using this one, public IP. Now we want this public IP to be mapped to the DNS name. So let us create a record. So if you want to map public IP addresses directly, what we will use a record. Go here, go to Route 53. See, type private, and it is valid in only AWS private network created by Route 53, and we have two records which will be created by default. So let us go here and add one more record, and we already discussed these record types, right? Let us create record, and here we will use dev dot. If you want to use anything else before, say suppose I can say dev.aws.amazon.com and console.aws.amazon.com, like that. So let us add directly dev.srija.cloudtutorials.net is our name, a DNS name, record name. And then the type of record, here we are going with a record. We are directly using IP address. So HTTP should not be there. And the other options, you can bring AAA records for IPv6 addresses. Same, they are like mapping the domain name with the IP address, but for IPv6, the name is different, AAA. CNAME we know. If you want to bring subdomain names, route traffic to another domain name to some AWS resources, like Elastic Load Balancers, CloudFront, any other services on top of your EC2 or S3, here we have to create CNAME. Same, mail servers, TXT for additional information. And here there is some PTR also, maps IP addresses to the domain name. So then this is same like a record, PTR record. Maps an IP address to a domain name. And SRVs, only specific values that identify servers. So let us go with a record, and we have a value, and if we have multiple servers, you can separate them by comma and give one more IP address. Enter multiple values on separate lines. Okay, not separated by comma, on the separate lines. If you have 4 servers, then 4 IP addresses will be there, and you can enter all those IP addresses here. And now Route 53 offers routing policy for us. So before talking about routing policy, let's talk about time to live. The TTL. TTL is 300 seconds. So let's go to presentation. So TTL means we discussed that DNS will cache and also your browser will cache the details of the server. Right, how much time? How much time your DNS resolver should cache it? That is time to live. time to live, the information, uh, time limit to stay in DNS resolver simply. So that is TTL. So now with the usage of Route 53, how it will be? So here your DNS resolver will be there. When www.example.com comes, it will returns, and here is your Route 53. So the actual origin here is Route 53. Your DNS root name server, TLD, etc. will be there. But in AWS, AWS maps AWS maps all the services within the AWS to the IP addresses using this Route 53. So let's go. Now we will come here to, that is time to live. We can reduce it to 60 seconds if we want. Minimum is 60. See, recommended values is 60 to these many. That means 2 days, not more than that. 60. Routing policy, simple routing policy. Simple routing policy means just it will look into the value and route the traffic to that value. Simple. So it's simple routing policy. Then create record. So now we have created record. So let's copy this. Copy this. And we will check. It won't work. Why? Why it's not working? See, this one is working, but this one is not working. We have added a record, but it's not working. Why? Can you figure out? It has to work according to uh, Route 53. When you add a record, um, we have added a record mapped to this private uh, registered domain name to this public IP, but here it's working, but here it's not working. Why? Because we have created a private hosted zone, not public hosted zone. So if it is a public registered DNS name, it works, but it is private registered DNS name or private hosted zone DNS name. It will work within AWS network only, not outside AWS network. So what we will do, we will go and create one more EC2 instance. This time I'll change it to Sydney, because in Sydney also we have registered Sydney also, Sydney VPC2. And here I am going to create a Windows EC2 launch instance. And we will use this Windows EC2 as a client device. Select. Next. Security group. Let us call it as Windows Security Group. Along with the RDP, Remote Desktop Protocol rule, we need HTTP rule. That's it. Review and launch. Vanchi EC2. No key pairs found because the new region key pairs also are also region specific. So let us create a new key pair. This is EC2 Sydney key pair. Download key pair, launch instance. And view instance. So this is going to be our client device. Now if client device is also within the AWS network, then this domain name will be valid in that AWS network. Let's close this, go here and wait until it becomes running. Yes, now we can connect to it. Connect RDP client, download remote desktop file. We will get password and we will connect with this remote desktop file. Get password. We have to wait for at least 4 minutes. Okay, meanwhile, we will talk about different routing policies. Already we know these records, a record, alias record. We have to talk about this alias record. Let's go to AWS, Route 53. There is one more thing apart from a record, CNAME record, mail server, MX records. There is something called as alias records in Route 53. If you want to use VPC endpoints, create a record. See here you can, if you want to use endpoints, we already talked about VPC endpoints. You can create S3 endpoint. You can create endpoints for load balancers also, elastic load balancers. So if you want to use those endpoints, here you go. So alias to another record in this poster zone. Alias to application and classic load balancers, alias to elastic beanstalk environment. You see S3 bucket. How can you bring S3 bucket? You can use a S3 website endpoint here, a VPC endpoint here. So alias is not a record type. Uh, the record types available in DNS are these records, but Route 53 is AWS managed service. That's why they have created this alias record. This alias record is to add AWS endpoints, API endpoints, S3 endpoints, global accelerator endpoints, network load balancer, another load balancer endpoints. Right? You can create an endpoint and give that endpoint here. So that is alias. So let us switch off this alias record, and then we know this routing policy is simple. Right now we are using simple. What simple routing policy means? When you create a record, you choose routing policy which determines how Route 53 responds to queries. So this is simple routing policy. Whenever a query comes from the client, request comes from the client device, it will be routed to the associated mapped uh, IP addresses in the routing policy. That is simple routing policy. And then we have weighted routing policy. So let's see if this is working. We will seek simple routed policy, and then we will create a weighted routing policy. Right now we already have a simple routing policy, and we know that it works in only AWS network. So we have created Windows EC2 instance, which is my client device, and server is in Mumbai VPC. Client is in Sydney VPC. This is client device. Let us connect and RDP client connection, get password. And this is yeah, decrypt password, and this is our password. This one. Username is administrator, password. Now let us connect through RDP. So open. I have downloaded this remote desktop file. It will ask me password. Copy and paste the password. So copy it and paste it here. Continue. Yes, and this is our Windows EC2 server, or sorry, Windows EC2 instance, not server. Okay, and let us open this Internet Explorer, and I'll go here. So this is our domain name. So now it's working. So that is just simple routing policy. Let us create next routing policy, weighted routing policy. Let's go here. Delete this policy first. Uh, Delete record. Yes. Create record. This time we will create weighted routing policy. And new things came here when I add this weighted routing policy. That is weight. See, that is weight, health check, and it's optional, and record ID. Why this record ID is, in weighted routing policy, you can add multiple records. That's why record ID. Record ID is for identification purpose. You can give serial numbers like 1, 2, 3. You can add multiple records, which is not possible in simple routing policy. See, for simple routing policy, you will not have a record ID. It allows only one record in simple routing policy. You can add multiple IP addresses here. Um, Multiple servers you can add, but the policy has to be one, not more than one. It will not allow if the routing policy is simple routing. Now let us use weighted routing. So weight, let's say 50% of the traffic should come here, and then health check is optional, so we are not going for that. We will also discuss health check. Record ID, let us give one. You can give any name also, or give any numbers. This is my first record, so I'm giving a record ID as 1, weight is 50. And now let's see how this weighted policy works. So 30% of the traffic, 70 in this picture, 30% of the traffic is going to this elastic load balancer, 70% of the traffic coming here. So where these kind of weighted routing policies will be helpful is when you are making changes to your web page. Say you are bringing some new features, or you are working on look and feel of your website, and you don't know how it works. So while taking it to production phase means while you are taking it to your clients which are there on the public internet. Suppose it's a e-commerce site. So in the e-commerce site, they have changed the icons arrangement. Now it is different. It's not like the previous web page. And also the color, say for example, they have also added chat box kind of a thing, and they want to test it how clients will receive it. So what they will do, clients will they are already used to the previous web console or web portal. Sorry for that. Yeah, we are talking about this, right? When certain changes are done, and they don't launch, make apply these changes to all their servers. They'll apply these changes only to 30% of their servers. If 10 servers are there, they'll apply these changes to 3 servers, and remaining 7 servers will be like as is, or older version of web application will be running on them. And also the traffic, they can divide the traffic. The total traffic, 30% of the traffic should only go to those 3 servers, and majority of the traffic should hit the old servers, the servers which have old version of web application. Why? Because they are still launching it. It's in launching phase, and these guys, this application, who are hosting this application, they have to make sure that customers or clients are comfortable with these changes. So once people slowly get used to those things, they'll apply it to entire, to all the servers. AWS also do the same thing. Sometimes they will be changing this console. Sometimes they will be making changes to the console, and they will not apply to all their servers. Some people will be getting the older console only, but some accounts will be getting the new version of the console. So weighted routing policy does uh, through weight. The 50% of the traffic I am sending to this one. Why it's not getting copy? TTL we will reduce to 60 second. 60 second and then create record. So we have created a record with weighted routing policy. And to test this weighted routing policy, I also need one more instance, right? So let us go to EC2. And this EC2 we will launch in Sydney itself. You can use VPCs which you have registered with your private hosted zone. So let us launch instance here. So one server is in Mumbai and this server I am creating in Sydney. Okay, here I have to make it web server. It takes some time to connect. So this time I can also use user data. Next time onwards, we can apply user data. So on user data, you can give the commands. Um, they will be executed at the time of launch of your EC2 instance. But we have not given any user data. We call it as bootstrapping. We already discussed that. So not yet done. Status is running now. Let's see, we can connect connect through EC2 instance. HTML here also. So this web page is coming with me. So And now let's go here, copy public IP and test it. So it's working. Now go here and we all add this server to weighted routing policy. We will go to route 50. Create record. So here we can have more than one record. So copy this. Here. And the time to leave, let us reduce it to 60 seconds. Weighted routing policy, weight is 50%. And then record SIDs to create record. 50% should go here, 50% should go here. Let us check in the Windows EC2. As I said, this browser as well as resolver will have some cache memory and they'll cache the past mapped server details. So let us try in private mode. Close this. Settings. And here copy this. So now it's going to this. The next request should reach Mumbai server, but we cannot see this. Why? Because as I said, browser as well as resolver will have some cache. By default, the last mapped server will be in its cache memory for at least 60 seconds. So you can create one more EC2 instance and can check how it works. Weighted routing policy. 50% of the traffic will go to server number 1, which is in Mumbai, and 50% of the traffic will go to server number 2, which is in Sydney. And you can also use like 30-70%, like that. That is weighted routing policy. We are routing the traffic based on the policy you have created, and it is weighted one. You are also specifying the weights. And the difference between simple routing policy and weighted routing policy, here you can have more than one records. So let us delete these two. We will go to next routing policy, delete records, delete. So that is weighted routing policy. After this weighted routing policy, we have latency routing policy. So this latency routing policy evaluates the latency. And based on that, it will assign the server. Say I have 4 servers. Say for example, I am the client device is in the Indian region only, and server is in Mumbai region. We have one server in Mumbai, one server in Sydney, and one server in Tokyo. Say for example, I am from Indian region and I am searching and I am sending a request from Indian region only.
but Indian server is busy with lot of traffic. Maybe if my traffic routes to the Indian server, I may experience latency. So this particular routing policy will calculate the latency. Even though I'm in Indian region, it will route to Sydney or some other region. Right. So that is latency routing policy. Maybe Sydney server is bit free. It's not too busy with dealing with traffic. So my request will be routed to Sydney region, even though my device belongs is in Indian region. So it directs to the server that has least latency, and it will latency is the priority here. So that is latency routing policy. And then failover routing policy, very important. Let me check time. So we will discuss about failover routing policy tomorrow. And geolocation routing policy, multi-value routing policy. Geolocation routing policy, same like latency routing policy, but here location is important. We talked about latency routing policy, right? So there it calculates the latency. Latency is the priority. In geolocation routing policy, location is priority. Where it is helpful is especially this e-commerce site or news websites, even companies websites providing some instructions. If they want their web pages to display in different languages. So for India, English is fine. For China, Japan, Russia, so some countries they don't have the English as an popularly used by people. So different website for Russian people and in Russian language, and they have launched a different web page for Chinese people. And now they are very particular about the origin of the request. Location is very important. And if the origin of the request origin is from India, then it has to route it to Indian server only, where web pages will be displayed in English. It's fine. If a request origin is China, then it has to go and hit Chinese servers only. So if you are very particular about location and also e-commerce site, if you say Amazon.com, you'll get price in some dollars, whereas in Amazon.in, you'll get a price in rupees. So there also this location routing policy helps a lot. When request is coming from the India, it has to hit Indian servers only, so that it will be easy for clients as well as people who are maintaining the web application. Especially they are globally available, dealing with different currencies, different languages. Geolocation routing policy helps a lot. You can try with geolocation routing policy and latency, but failover routing policy we will discuss in class. And this is very important routing policy in exam also. At least one or two questions will appear related to this failover routing policy. So let's discuss about this tomorrow. Okay, see you tomorrow then. Bye bye. Take care.